Is the neckline of your dress cut too low? Learn how to fix a low-cut neckline. In this example, I use a V-neck dress with half sleeves and a half circle skirt, but you can do it with any low-cut neckline. The bottom of my skirt has an extra piece that I cut off, and I'm going to add as a piece at the V-neck. Often when you have a prom dress, you need to hem it, and you can use that to raise the neckline. If you don't need to hem it, you can also use matching or coordinating lace at the low-cut neckline. You can use the hem for the low-cut neckline with lace if you want to do something unique and special. The hard part about adding fabric is it's really hard to find fabric that is the same color and type. When you use lace, it can be a similar color, but it's okay if it looks different. Often when I use lace to add fabric, I'll add it somewhere else on the dress so it looks like it was on purpose. I start by using fabric scissors to cut the extra piece off of the bottom of the skirt. It's like it has a hem, and then there's almost like a cuff underneath the hem that I'm cutting off. So my dress will still have a hem, and I will be able to use the matching fabric for the V-neck. It really depends on the design of your dress if you need to hem it, or if there's something that you can take off and it won't detract from the design of the dress. So if you can see, if you look closely, my scissors are going just along the edge of that hem. So the hem is on the left, and I'm cutting right underneath it. So the raw edge that I'm cutting off will not be seen under the hem. I'm being careful to only cut the extra piece, and so I won't cut through the hem. If you need to hem your dress, save all of the pieces that you cut off, because you can piece fabric together or use the tiny pieces in a unique way to raise the low-cut neckline. Once you have extra fabric to use or lace, you need to cut it to be the right shape of the neckline. So I like to use a big piece, and I place it on the neckline with the finished edge or fold or hem along the top of the piece. And then I cut it large down to size. I like to be safe rather than sorry, and put it in place. And then I cut it to the right shape. And I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around this kind of triangle trapezoid shape. And I'm cutting it carefully so it's the perfect right shape. Next, I'm going to serge the raw edges, or you can zigzag them so the edges are finished. Then I take my piece, unzip your dress or undo any of the fastenings so that you can get the front of the neckline, you can get to it easily. You're going to turn your dress turn it right side out so that you're looking at the inside, and place your piece with the right side down on the neckline. So I'm putting it in place, the shape that fits perfectly, and I'm carefully making sure that the neckline is not stretched or pulled so that the piece will perfectly fit in place. Then I take my pins and I'm going to pin it in place. And I'm being very careful that I don't shift that piece while I'm pinning, because I've found the perfect place for it and I don't want any pulling or tucking or any problems on the front of the dress. So I'm carefully pinning it in place, and I use lots of pins so that it stays in place. Next, get a hand needle and some thread. Pull out your thread and thread it through the needle with a double thread. That means there's 2 threads tied with a knot at the bottom, so I'm using 2 threads as I sew. I like to use 2 threads for extra strength on my dress and neck piece. I don't want it to fall off. So I start on one side with the thread tails in between the fabric layers, and I sew all the way around this new piece that is pinned in. Since my edges are serged, I like to sew. I put my needle through the piece on the inside of the serging, so it's about 1/4 of an inch in from the edge, and then I take a little bite of the fabric on the lining so that I'm going from 1/4 of an inch in on the extra piece to the lining of the dress, and I go back and forth, about every 3/8 of an inch. I'm switching from one piece of fabric to the other piece of fabric. And this is holding it in place on the inside, and this is going to be the strongest thread that really holds it in place. The other sewing we do is more for placement, but not for strength. And then tie it off with a square knot and cut your threads. Next, you're going to turn your dress right side out so you can see how the piece looks in your low cut neckline. And if you pull the edges open, you can see that serging. So we're going to add another row of stitches to the outside that will hold it in place, but it's not for strength. Again, I do a double thread, so there's 2 threads in my needle with 1 knot at the end. And I start at the top of one side with the knot in the back of the dress, and I go from the edge of the neckline to right next to it. I go to the inset piece that we added, and this is making it so that it looks like the dress has this inset piece sewn in with a machine instead of sewn in by hand. So I go about every 1/4 of an inch, I switch from the inset piece to the neckline, and I go back and forth in between, pulling it tight without pulling it too tight. And this makes the inset piece smooth over and looks like it fits right into the dress, and it looks like it was made this way instead of having a piece added later. When you get up to the other side, tie it off with a square knot and cut the threads. And that's how you fix a low cut neckline. Please like this video and share it with anyone that needs to learn how to fix a low cut neckline. Please follow my channel for lots more tips and tricks about altering clothes and sewing clothes.